This is Festival Past Stories, a podcast series is told by the people who create and make festivals come to life. You will go behind the stage, kitchen, or studio door to hear the stories of passion and inspiration that started some of the world's most beloved festivals. Hear the startup stories and how an idea went from what if to what's next. All right, friends, welcome back to Festival Past Stories, where we always take you behind the scenes. And today, we're going to take you not really behind the scenes, but we're like inside the scenes, inside the head of the actor, the writer, the producer, so many titles, but he's great at all of them. And, you know, I'd say he is the guy from that thing because he really is. He's been working for 34 plus years as a professional actor. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the great Holt McCallany. Holt, what is happening?
Hey, Pat. Nice to be with you, my friend.
Thanks for joining us on Festival Past Stories. Now we're going to get into music festivals. Well, you've probably been in a band too, so we'll get to that. But TV festivals, film festivals, the best of the festivals, because you've been to all of these. But you know, I just want to start with last year was the kind of year where you just wanted to get on a Greyhound bus at one point and just take off somewhere. And this is something that you know about. Now, it's true that when you were 14, you have the acting bug so bad that you got on a Greyhound and headed off to Hollywood. True or false?
That would be true.
How'd you even have the money for it?
Yeah, well, so it's actually a funny story. I started school. You and I both have some Irish ancestry, Pat.
Yes, we do.
I started school in Holt, outside Dublin. And in the same place I think that Gabriel Byrne is from. And at a place called the National School, I was with the Christian Brothers. And what happened was my parents got divorced. And in those days, divorce was illegal in Ireland. So my mother, flew to Mexico, where apparently you can get a divorce rather quickly.
And probably cheap. The Mexican discount for divorce is very cheap, I'm sure.
My understanding is that, of course, in Ireland, I'm talking about the 1960s. Now,
yeah. Sure.
In Ireland, I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that divorce did not become legal in Ireland until sometime in the 90s. The priest would just tell you, go work it out, So she
no matter what the scenario, just go there and work it out. Yeah, you'll be fine. Your man's a good man. You'll figure it out.
Right. My mom divorced my dad, and she moved my younger brother and I back to the States, and we lived in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And at the time, my father had a show on Broadway. It was called Borstal Boy. It was by the great Irish playwright Brendan Behan.
Yes.
And it won the Tony Award. And it was the first Irish play to win the Tony Award. And my mother was also starring in a play called Jimmy, a musical called Jimmy, which was about the famous mayor of New York City, Jimmy Walker.
Yes.
So, so I would have been 7 at the time, and really already infatuated with the idea of becoming an actor. Like I said, both my parents had been Broadway actors. My mother had also, been a very successful singer and had appeared in films in Hollywood. And I just knew from a very early age that I wanted to be an actor. And, I've always felt that young people are at a great advantage when they have that kind of a calling, when they don't have to kick around trying to figure out what it is I want to do, what do I want to be, where do I fit in? When you really know in your heart, this is what I want to do, this is what I am, it's a great advantage. So I had wanted to be a child actor. I would watch films, I would watch television shows, and I would see young boys my age. And so I would say to my parents, well, look, what about that part? I could have played that part. Why can't you get me an agent? And my parents were determined for me to have a quote unquote normal childhood. I don't know how you have a normal childhood,
I have no idea what that is anymore.
Exactly. So at a certain point, because my mom was constantly on the road, and my father, was let's just say like an absent father. She decided that she would send myself and my younger brother to Omaha, Nebraska, which is where she grew up, where I would be raised by my maternal grandparents. and they were wonderful people. And
Warren Buffett, was Warren Buffett your paternal grandfather?
Well, I wish. No,
yeah, that would be nice. I'd be asking you for a loan, a PPP loan or something.
Yeah, well, Warren actually, still lives only a few blocks from where my mother grew up, and was a fan of my mother, and used to come and hear her sing when she would perform there. And he was always, a very, very gracious guy. And
I would sing for stock tips if he would give them to me. I would just sing.
I was too young in those days. I met him now. I don't know if I'd have the balls to say, hey.
You were saving up for a Greyhound bus ride. You didn't have the money for stocks.
Yeah, well, no, what happened was, I didn't drop my incessant, asking, for, to my parents to help me get an agent. And I realized that in Omaha, that was never going to happen.
Yeah.
When we were still living in New Jersey, Summit, New Jersey, it was close to New York City. And in my mind, I could imagine a scenario where I would come into the city and do my auditions and stuff like that. In Omaha, Nebraska, you can't really be an actor. You need to be in New York or in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And
you can be an oracle, but you can't be an actor.
You can be an oracle. Well, very few guys can do that even.
Yeah.
So what happened was, it was my first year of high school. I was 14 years old. I was in an all-boy Jesuit prep school called Creighton Prep, and I got expelled. And that happened to coincide for disciplinary reasons. We could talk about that. I don't know how interesting it is, but I happened to be in a poker game with a bunch of other young kids my age, and it was small stakes, quarter, dollar kind of thing. We didn't have a lot of money, but
I still play for that kind of money because I'm just terrible at poker.
One of the kids' dads was a dentist, and he came home drunk. And he said, I'm going to teach you boys how to play poker. And he sat down at the table, and he was astonishingly bad. And he kept raising the stakes. And by the end of the evening, I had won about $2,000.
Get out of here.
It's a true story. And, $2,000, Pat, in those days would be like what $200,000 would be to me now. I mean,
how'd you get out of there alive?
It just seemed, well, he wrote a check for the money. I cashed the check the next morning, and that afternoon, I took a Greyhound bus to L.A. with dreams of becoming an actor. I didn't have any contacts. I didn't know, I didn't really have a game plan of any kind. And I ended up with a job in a screwdriver factory in Gardena, California, unloading trucks.
That's how Tom Hanks got his start too, I think. So very similar
actually,
story.
Tom Hanks and I actually our first professional jobs as actors were in the exact same place. We were both unpaid apprentice actors at the Great Lakes Shakespeare Festival in Cleveland, Ohio.
Look at that.
The artistic director of which was Vincent Dowling, who was a former artistic director of the Abbey Theatre in Dublin, and it was an Abbey Theatre production that my father imported to Broadway that won the Tony Award, the Borstal Boy production. So I have that connection with Tom, and when I worked with him a couple of years ago on a movie for Clint Eastwood, we reminisced about our days at the Great Lakes Shakespeare Festival because Tom is a good man, and he kept in contact with a lot of those guys from all, he would have been there in the 70s, I was there in the 80s, but, I had kept in contact with him, with many of them too. So we had all these mutual friends, that are actors, but they're regional theater actors. They're actors that nobody's ever heard of, but some of them are really good. They do the classics, they do it in rep. I mean, they're really talented. And just because the kind of guy that Tom is, he remained friends with many of them, as did I. So we had a kind of an immediate connection when we met, Tom Hanks and I.
And look at that, another festival. See, I was joking about music festivals, but you were in theater festivals, Shakespeare festivals. You're a festival man. You're a Renaissance festival man, perhaps we might even say.
A lot of festivals. I was, to talk about festivals, I was I would say that my fondest memory was of a film festival in Brussels, Belgium, where I was invited to be president of the jury.
Get out of here.
I was very honored and a little bit surprised because, the film festivals, they give out awards, right? Best actor, best director, best film. And when you're president of the jury, you don't make the decision unilaterally about who's going to win the awards. But, it's a very influential position. And I had not...
Get a lot of swag?
Well, what you get is you get a lot of guys trying to influence you. Directors coming up to you to say, hey, just to let you know, my film won Best Picture at Barcelona and Abu Dhabi.
Barcelona.
Just to say that, just to say. And by the way, you're a great actor, man. I really love your work. And you have
pouring it on.
Right. You have to remain, kind of impartial,
And you should have played poker against those guys. You probably could have won another 200 grand right there. Really 200 grand this time. But anyway, you got to be impartial.
It was just a wonderful experience. I had not been on that side of it. There's another festival that I love that I've attended multiple times, which is the International Film Festival in Marrakesh, Morocco.
Wow.
I had the great privilege of getting to meet and to get to know His Royal Highness Prince Moulay Rashid, who is the director of the festival. It's his festival, and he's the younger brother of King Mohammed of Morocco, and and he invited me. And I went more than once. So the last time I was there, Francis Ford Coppola was president of the jury, and
so
they gave a life.
You got to say yes to the king, and then of course you got to say yes to Francis Ford Coppola. How can you say no to either of them?
I think you do. I think you have to do both.
He's a king in his own right.
Absolutely, and so that was an extraordinary experience. I mean, what other festivals? I mean, one of my favorite memories of festivals was when a film that I'm in that I think is a really good film called Shot Caller, which stars the great Danish actor Nikolaj Coster-Waldau, whom a lot of your listeners will remember from Game of Thrones.
Okay.
And a prison film directed by a gentleman named Rick Romanwa, a very, very interesting, very meticulously researched and very authentic feeling film. And we were the opening night film at the Los Angeles Film Festival, and we got a tremendous response, and we did obviously a Q&A afterwards, with the guests. So that was another great night.
So speaking of Los Angeles, you're in Los Angeles, you're at the Screwdriver Factory. Mm-hmm. How do we go, and this is a big leap, how do we go from the Screwdriver Factory to some of these iconic roles? And again, you go down your IMDb and you have been, which is what a testament to your talents, that you have been working every year since you started. So 34 plus years that I could see. Probably in your life, you're thinking it's like a lot longer than that. But how do you get from the Screwdriver Factory to an iconic role, because I'm just going to go right to it, in Fight Club, where you're the mechanic? And that's something where I know people come up to you on the street still, and they're like, hey, you're the mechanic.
That particular film is one of my favorites. And the director of that film, David Fincher, is my favorite director. Obviously I did Mindhunter for him.
Yes.
On Netflix recently. I was in his first film, a film called Alien 3 with Sigourney Weaver.
That was his first film. Wow.
That was his first film. Yeah. Look, it's very much a supporting part. The film is really about, Brad, and it's Brad Pitt and Edward Norton, and of course the great British actress Helena Bonham Carter. And
Meatloaf. Let's not forget Meatloaf.
Look, there are some very talented guys that are in the peripheral parts. Meatloaf is one. Jared Leto is an Academy Award-winning actor. Was there in one of his early things. I'm there, obviously. Another friend of mine, a very good actor named Ian Bailey, and we knew at the time that we were making something very unique and very special. Pat. Sometimes you just know. Yeah. Sometimes when you're in a turkey, and and every actor has had that experience. Uh-huh. But sometimes when you're in something that's going to be, really, really special and be remembered. And that's how we felt about Fight Club. And it turned out to be true. In
But that
terms
must
of,
have felt electric. Like while you're working on it, you're like, you're like, I've been in 65 things. This is the thing.
First of all, it's a great book. It became a great screenplay. It had a great director, and it had great actors. I mean, I'm talking about Brad Pitt and Edward Norton. I mean, these guys are major, major talents. But it was, of course, very much David's vision. And look, for a young actor, in Hollywood, I would say that it doesn't. It's a tremendously valuable opportunity to be a part of something so iconic. And I do still get recognized for it, even though I'm a lot older now. But it's because I have that famous line. In death, a member of Project Mayhem has a name. His name is Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson.
Yeah.
His name is Robert. So it was really an important a gig for me, in terms of what it led to for me in my career, and it's still, even though it's a small part, it's still one of the things that I'm proudest of.
Incredible. And on that note, David Fincher. So fast forward, you mentioned Mindhunter. You came up to me. I saw you at a friend's wedding, and I was like, so what's up? Any new projects going on? And you start telling me about this crazy story of Mindhunter, and you're like, Pat, I'm telling you, it's going to be unbelievable. And I'm there with my wife, and we were both like, did you just hear that was insane. I don't think we're watching that thing. And then we watched it. I was like, oh, let's see how it is. Hooked from episode 1. Bill Tench, your character. I mean, first of all, you had to play that was like, it seemed like an FBI guy who's just like sick and tired of his job, sick and tired of everything around him. And then he gets this new opportunity and then digs into it. But you knew that was another role where you're like, I'm telling you this, where we chase serial killers and sex offenders, and it's crazy and it's going to be amazing. We were like, okay, yeah, good luck with that. Now I'm dying to know if we're ever going to see Bill Tench again.
Look, Pat, it's not my decision. I can tell you that the show has a lot of fans that are very good. And I know that they would love to see additional seasons of Mindhunter. But it was a very expensive show to produce.
Period pieces are always crazy like that, right?
That's absolutely true. Yeah. And look, it's really David's decision. The show was a success because of David Fincher, not because of my participation. People sometimes say to me, but you were really good in the show, Holt, and and I appreciate that, and I certainly tried hard and tried to do my homework and be very prepared. But it's a bit like being invited to a fabulous dinner party. You know what I mean? With beautiful china and silver and a sumptuous meal. And
I've heard of these. I've never been invited to one, but I hope to one day. Maybe when we're allowed to do those kind of things again. Maybe somebody will invite me.
I hope that will be soon, my friend. I really do. But anyway, you just gotta sit down and eat without spilling your dinner down the front of your shirt. And if you do that, everybody goes, "Hey, wow, that was great." Yeah, well, it was all laid out for me. Let's put it that way.
Incredible. So we could talk about all the different iconic roles, but one that always sticks out to me is when you played legendary boxing trainer Teddy Atlas in the HBO film Tyson. Mm-hmm. Now, since then, and maybe even before then, you've supported Teddy and his foundation, which is how you and I met back in 2009. I was the auctioneer in this crazy room in Staten Island with 1,000 people that are screaming and hollering and throwing chicken around the room. And one guy's in a tuxedo. The next table, they're in T-shirts. It's just a wild, wild place. We're trying to control that crowd. It's nuts. You got a dais that looks like the Dean Martin roast, where you got boxers from 40 years ago and then current Super Bowl champions, actors, you and Chris Noth, and so on. But what I want to talk about is your help with Teddy, getting the word out with Teddy, and the work that his father did for years, Dr. Theodore Atlas. He was taking care of people who didn't have insurance. He was doing this before anyone was thinking of this. Teddy's still doing this, still carrying on that work, and he always talks about very hard examples of individual families, people they've helped out, houses that burnt down, people that need medical care, whatever, and they're doing that today. But how important was Teddy's work in the past year when people couldn't get to the doctor? They didn't know if they had COVID. They couldn't even get a COVID test. So have you talked to Teddy lately? I mean, it must have been a year for the foundation like no other.
You know, I've been a supporter of Teddy's and of the Dr. Atlas Foundation since its inception. You know, I was there at the very first, at Teddy dinner. We call it the Teddy dinner.
Yeah.
And
people in the know call it the Teddy.
Right. And I've been there almost every year since. The only ones I ever missed were one or two when I was shooting something out of town. I just couldn't be there. But, he's been a good friend. And he is a guy who has, through his foundation, really helped a lot of people. And one of the reasons that I think it's such a great organization is because, there's no red tape.
No.
There's no bureaucracy really. If you, it could be the victims of Hurricane Sandy. It could be a family who has a child, who needs an operation that insurance won't cover. You know what I mean? Or it could be, it could be a medical emergency. It could be anything. All you have to do is call the Atlas Foundation. And, if they'll do their due diligence. And if your story checks out, they just write you a check. They just come and they just help, no matter who you are. And they've helped so many people. I would love to see that foundation get corporate sponsorship.
Sure.
And because it deserves it. And the more resources that they have, the more people, that they can help. It's just a great charity. And, and let's face it, he's a very special guy. I mean, he's trained, I don't know how many world champion boxers. I'm going to say probably 20, in
all weight classes.
In all weight classes, he's trained, multiple, heavyweight champions of the world, recently he had the light heavyweight champion. I mean, he's a great trainer. He's a great guy. We're actually hoping, Teddy and I, to bring his life story to the screen, and that project is in development at the moment, I'm hoping in the course of the coming weeks, to be able to make an announcement about that.
So you're putting your producer hat on here as I knock my microphone out of the way, but
right.
This is where you'd be in this movie. You've played Teddy before, but now this would be a production project.
Correct. Yeah, because we would want to focus on that part of Teddy's life. Do you know what I mean? Where in his youth, when he made the decision, because he had of course wanted to be a boxer himself, and had been a Golden Gloves champion amateur, but he had medical problems, back problems, and stuff that made it impossible for him, to become a professional. And so his mentor, the legendary Customato, suggested that he become a trainer. And he was initially resistant to that idea, but ultimately he decided to pursue it. And I think that I think it's pretty clear that that he's one of the great boxing trainers of his generation and probably of all time.
Okay, so Teddy, this is a story that you know personally and know well. So when it comes to producing a piece, is it something that has to tug at your heartstrings? Or has someone ever come to you with a project and you're like, this is the project we're going to do?
It's such a great question, Pat. And this is why. Because I think that, the best producers are guys who choose stories that really speak to them personally, things that they're passionate about. Things that resonate with them. So it's not a question of, what do I think a particular demographic, will want to see. It's not that those kinds of commercial considerations are irrelevant, but I think it can't start there. It has to start, with, here's a story that I think is unique and special and deserves to be told. And look, I do get, when you become successful in the entertainment business, you get a lot of unsolicited material, and most of it, is not worth pursuing, but some of it occasionally is.
Yeah.
But this is a special project to me. As as you mentioned earlier, I played Teddy Atlas in a movie for HBO called Tyson, about Mike Tyson. Teddy was Mike's first trainer. And was really instrumental in developing Mike as a young fighter and as an amateur champion. Obviously, the split between Teddy and Mike and Cuss, volumes have been written about that, so we don't have to get into that right now. But, Teddy went on to really distinguish himself. As a trainer, and to have tremendous success, and to take those skills that he gleaned, under his mentor Cuss D'Amato, and really use them. So it's a very, I think it's a story about redemption. It's a story about fathers and sons, and about how sometimes in life, if we're not getting all of the things that we need from our father, we'll look for surrogate fathers in other places, and. So I think that the Atlas project is, and I felt this way, to be honest with you, when I got the call. It's a funny story, so I'll just tell it very briefly. It won't take long. There was a wonderful casting director who was from Staten Island. Teddy is from Staten Island, New York. Her name is Natalie Hart, and she called me one day and she said, "Hey, they're making a movie about Mike Tyson. I know you're a boxing fan. How would you like to play Kevin Rooney?" And I said, "How can I be Kevin Rooney?" I said, "Have you seen?"
Because you're Irish looking.
Have you ever seen a picture of Kevin Rooney? I mean, no disrespect to Kevin, but he was kind of so it's much smaller than me with a round face. Do you know what I mean? And just I didn't feel like I said, but who I could play, who I'd love to play? I'd love to play Teddy Atlas. And she said, "Well, I think Teddy Atlas is only going to be one scene in the movie." I said, "Well, that's okay. Well, I'll play Teddy as one scene. That's fine." And so they hired me. And when the director really started to do more research about the story, what he realized was that Teddy had been a much more important person in Mike Tyson's development than he had originally understood, and the part expanded.
Incredible.
So I was very fortunate in that respect. And I was fortunate also, that Teddy has the personality that he does, because, I had never met him. I knew who he was because I followed boxing. But I called him out of the blue, and I just said, "Look, Mr. Atlas, my name is Holt McCallany. I know we've never met, but I'm an actor, and I'm going to play you in a movie for HBO. I'd love to meet you and talk to you." And he invited me to come. At the time, he was training out of a gym in New Jersey called the House of Pain, and he had two heavyweight contenders. One of them, Michael Moorer. Became heavyweight champion of the world. Actually, right after we finished shooting the movie, and then the other one was a guy named Shannon Briggs, who was also a heavyweight contender. With a lot of talent, but whom I don't think ever won a title. From the beginning, he kind of like invited me, into his life, and I was able to get to know him very well and get to know his family.
You got hooked.
We've been friends for many years, and look, even though, and now me at this stage of my life and my career, and at the age that I'm at, I would not be the right choice to play him again. There was a time when I wanted to do that, because even though in the Tyson film, Teddy is a supporting character, and when I got to know Teddy, I said, "Listen, there should really be a Teddy Atlas movie or a Teddy Atlas television series, because there are a lot of different events in his life that would be very compelling." So we haven't given up on that idea, and recently there's been some renewed interest in it. So I think it's going to happen.
Well, Teddy draws people in and is compelling, and the amount of people that come to his event that volunteer, the amount of celebrities and NBC Sports, people like that film it for him. It looks like $100,000 production. It's not. They put that thing together on a shoestring, and they make, like, the net on that event is massive. Nicosters is involved, everybody. And again, he is compelling, engaging, drawing, and I know that a picture put together with your passion and Teddy's influence will be fantastic. So speaking of pictures, you talked before about being at festivals where you were the golden god or the grand poobah or wherever you were at the grand judge. But do you remember the first time you were at a festival, like the first time you went to a festival where one of your TV shows or one of your movies was being screened? And what was that like?
I love film festivals, and the reason is, Pat, because the people that you meet there are people that are really passionate about cinema.
Yeah.
And as I said to you earlier in this conversation, I was passionate about it from the time I was a child. I ran away from home and went to Hollywood when I was 14 years old because I wanted to be a movie
with
actor.
$2,000 in your pocket, you're poker winning.
$2,000 in my pocket. That's right. So I love it. I always try, to make time to go. Whenever I'm invited, I was at the Cannes Film Festival the year before last, and a very good friend of mine who actually directed me in Mindhunter, a fabulous documentary filmmaker named Asif Kapadia, who is probably best known for the Academy Award-winning documentary about the late singer Amy Winehouse.
Oh.
And he had a film that was I believe having its world premiere at the Cannes Film Festival, and it was called Maradona, and it was about Diego Maradona,
who just passed away.
Who just passed away and was one of the greatest soccer players of all time.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, man, I'm a sports fan. I know you are too. This is one of the greatest sports documentaries, you will ever hope to see. So I think it's on HBO, on demand, but for your fans out there that watch the podcast, if you want to see a really good movie, see Maradona by Asif Kapadia. But that's it. I go whether I have a film or I'm supporting another friend, or I'm the president of the jury, or I'm just like I am at the Festival de Film de Marrakech, if I'm just a guest.
Yeah, it's
always interesting. I talked about Marrakech a little bit earlier. Who are the people that I've met there? I mean, when I was there last time, they gave a Lifetime Achievement Award to Bill Murray, to Viggo Mortensen, Isabelle Huppert was president of the jury the year before Francis Ford Coppola, Jeremy Irons. And it's not just, the American and European artists, it's artists from Asia, it's artists from Africa, from all over the world. And that's really, really interesting. It's to be able to, to meet people who are passionate about cinema, but who come from different parts of the world. Where are you going to meet and interact with those people, Pat? It's at festivals.
Bingo.
Right.
And we can't wait to get back to them. The big festivals, the big film festivals are great. Toronto, Sundance, Cannes, whatever you want to say, Tribeca. But do you think in this conversation we're having now, which we should have been having for a long time, about equality and equity and helping people get to the table, can the big corporations that sponsor Sundance and those other things, can they reach down and find smaller festivals and help them out and give them money to bring people to the next level, to bring them to the light and say, your film is fantastic. We want to get behind it. We say that we're behind gender equity, we're behind racial equality, and we want to level the playing field. So do you think the Bank of Americas in the world should get behind these smaller festivals and help smaller directors that nobody knows get to the next level?
Look, absolutely. I think corporate America could do much more. I said a few minutes ago, that the Atlas Foundation,
Yeah.
Who helps people from very diverse backgrounds, that should get corporate sponsorship, and so should these festivals, that you're talking about. One of my favorite quotes, Pat, was by the great character actor Jack Lemmon, who is sadly no longer with us. But Jack used to say, if you're successful in a business, any business, could be the film business, could be the shoe business, whatever it is, you have an obligation to send the elevator back down.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It means, people helped me when I was a young actor starting out. And it was in part because of their help that I was eventually able to become successful. So I too, I feel an obligation, to help people. And I do it all the time. I get young actors who call me, and they need advice, they need help, they need introductions, they need you to make a call, they need some coaching, or writers who have written screenplays. Would I read it? Would I offer them, an assessment of it? And I try to always say yes if I can.
Yeah.
Because that's the circle of life, man.
Yeah. Like you did for our podcast today. You took the time. You're starting. Yeah. Friends. This guy, I'm going to let him go in a couple of minutes because he's starting a new project at 5 a.m. and he's always on time. So he's going to be there at 4:59. And so we're going to let him go in a minute. But I know that when our friends at the Irish Arts Center open up their gorgeous building on 11th Avenue at 51st and 52nd, I know when it comes time to have a class to teach young actors, or if somebody wants to change careers, or somebody's a little older and they want to get out of one career and they're like, can I start being an actor at 50 or something? That Holt McCallany is going to be there saying, here's how you do it. There's the Meisner method. There's all these other teachers. Here's the McCallany method. Here's how it's done. Here's 40 years of experience. And you're going to share that with people and you're going to send the elevator back down. And that building will have a very fancy elevator too. So I'm sure.
Not to cut you off. I just want to say congratulations to all of our friends at the Irish Arts Center, because the new structure is just breathtakingly beautiful, and it was a long time coming, and it was very hard, and the fundraising was really difficult, but they sure did it. And, and I also want to take a moment, to congratulate my friend Liam Neeson. I have a film coming out with Liam that'll come out later this year, a movie called The Ice Road. And
he doesn't strangle you in this one like he did in Up All Night Run All Night. Sorry.
I'm a good guy. This one, actually, Liam saves me. I'm trapped underground, and Liam saves me. Yeah, he killed me in the last one. But to give credit where credit is due, Liam, is an icon in Ireland and in the United States. But I mean, he's so admired, among the Irish, community, and he has given, for close to 20 years, so much of his time, talking about trying to help people, 3 times a year, showing up at events, at fundraisers, taking pictures with every single person, signing autographs, and sometimes, and I know Liam, we've worked together, but I stand in line just like everybody else. I'm talking about a line that might be 200 people long, just to get up to the front, just to say, hey, buddy, good to see you. And I'm just so impressed, with his generosity and, the commitment that he's shown to that organization. It's an important organization, I think it's important, for Irish culture, that we have a place like that. And nobody, has been a bigger supporter of it, than Liam. And now look what's happened. It's a $50 million, new structure. I mean,
no doubt about it.
It's just an incredible accomplishment.
And when that goes up, I believe that if anybody's watching and they want to put their family name on it, I think naming rights might still be available. But of course, while they're building it, that's one thing. But when you see this shining beacon people are going to say, how can I get my name on there? IrishArtsCenter.org. You can check out more about that. And, the American Irish Historical Society has just put their building on the market, which is probably the worst time to put a Fifth Avenue mansion, an old mansion on the block, but they're selling that. And that's one of those centers of Irish culture, and that's going away. And the Irish Arts Center is going to be committed to this forever. This will be a legacy that anybody who was involved in putting one brick in the facade can look at that with pride for a long time. And you were a big part of that. So congratulations to you, to Gabriel Byrne, and Liam Neeson, and Pauline and Aiden, everybody else who've been involved in that. Now, I am going to let you go in a second, but everybody wants to know, during shutdown, during COVID, everyone's been creative. Obviously, you've got creative projects going on all over the place. But did you find out a new superpower about yourself while you're sitting in your apartment with that beautiful skyline in the background? Did you figure out that you're a world-class chef? Did you learn a new language? Did you do anything? Or were you like, Pat, I've got 25 projects I'm working on, so that's what I did. I didn't have any time to just sit back and be quiet and think or try something new.
You know what? I did. What had happened was, I had been in England shooting a film for the director Guy Ritchie, a film that I'm in with Jason Statham that's going to come out later this year called Wrath of Man. And we had just finished, and I had gone on to another movie with the great Mexican director Guillermo del Toro, whose last film, The Shape of Water, won the Academy Award for Best Picture. And I'm in a film with him and Bradley Cooper and Cate Blanchett called Nightmare Alley, a remake of a film noir from the 40s. A really, really great script. It's just going to be a tremendous film. And we got interrupted because of the pandemic. And so the production was put on hold. I was shooting in Toronto. I flew to New York. I landed at LaGuardia Airport. I turned on my telephone, and all of a sudden, I got a message saying, would I travel to Winnipeg, Canada, to replace an actor in a Liam Neeson movie who was refusing to get on the plane because he was a cancer survivor and felt he was at increased risk for the virus.
Yeah, understood.
So I took my bags from baggage claim. I checked in, and I went to Winnipeg, which I like the people of Winnipeg. They're really, really, really nice people. But it is, I think, the coldest city in North America. It was like 25 below zero.
It sounds cold. Winnipeg sounds cold.
And Liam, actually, this was March when I was there. He was shooting in January and February, like north of Winnipeg, where it was 40 below. And it was rough. But we got the movie done. I came back to New York, and by that time, Pat, the city was just deserted. It was like a science fiction movie. The only thing I can compare it to was I used to live in Tribeca for many years, very near the World Trade Center, and I was there, the day the towers came down, and the city became, a ghost town down in Lower Manhattan for obvious reasons. So that's what it kind of felt like. I was here in my apartment in Midtown, and I realized that I was going to be here for weeks or maybe months. And, I decided I was going to try to use my time as efficiently as possible. So, there were a lot of projects that I had in development that needed to be, to me to be finished and gotten out there. And I did that. I decided that as the son of a hard drinking, Dublin man, that maybe it would be a good idea for me to put all the liquor into the closet until quarantine ended. So
with a padlock that you don't know the combination to.
Exactly. And forget the combination. Because, my dad, may he rest in peace, used to like to sit all by himself in dark rooms and drink whiskey. And I said, I'm not doing that. I started cooking for myself. Which was a big change for me because I'm a guy who eats hundreds of consecutive meals in restaurants. I started taking online French classes,
nice.
a week because I speak fluent French, but I just wanted to make it, that much better. I started doing a lot of, online workouts, with a great trainer, Eric the trainer. If you're looking for a good trainer, he does online classes every day.
All right.
And
Eric the trainer.
And what happened was I lost a bunch of weight.
Yeah, oh, that's just not fair.
And I went back up to Canada to finish the movie when finally, we were allowed to go back to Canada. And Guillermo del Toro took one look at me. He's like, "What did you do?
Yeah.
Your face is thinner. You look completely." I said, "Well, I didn't think it was that noticeable."
Normally people are excited for you. He was pissed.
He was pissed. Yeah. And so he made me put all the weight back on. So I was like, oh my God. So I'm eating ice cream and I'm eating and he was happy in the end, which was important to me. But I had to come back and again, get back on the diet and back up. But I hate to say, that, a cliche, like every cloud has a silver lining. But a lot of good things, did come out of it. I got a lot of personal stuff done, a lot of kind of self-improvement stuff. And, but I'm definitely ready for it to end, ready to get vaccinated and ready to return to normal life.
Yeah. Here's the arm. Give me the shot. And there's just one more connection to you with Tom Hanks, dramatic weight loss and then weight gain for a part. So there it is. Well, look, he speaks fluent French. You were very busy, and it sounds like you got things done. So as I say, merci and au revoir to you. I would also say, friends, how can we find out about Holt and your new projects? What's going on? How can we find out more about this?
You could go to holtmccallany.com. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff, multiple projects coming out in 2021. As I mentioned, co-starring with Jason Statham in the new Guy Ritchie movie.
That sounds like an action pick.
That's an action pick. But I'm also in Nightmare Alley with Bradley Cooper, which is a drama and which is going to be, I think, a really, really special, really memorable film. I would highly recommend it. Obviously, another movie, The Ice Road with my friend Liam Neeson. A new television pilot called Ways and Means with Patrick Dempsey. And then I'm always updating, my stuff. So if you want, I'm in a film that's out right now with Gerard Butler called Greenland that did very well. Yeah. Just keeping busy, man, as best I can under the circumstances.
That's it. And I am in none of those. So that's great. You can see Holt in all of those. You can see me in none of those. Folks, we don't talk about Fight Club, but we do talk about festivals, and we will talk to you next time on Festival Pass Stories. Holt, thanks a lot. See you later.
Pat, it was a pleasure. I'll see you soon, my friend. All the best.
Indeed.
This is Festival Pass Stories, a podcast series is told by the people who create and make festivals come to life. You will go behind the stage, kitchen, or studio door to hear the stories of passion and inspiration that started some of the world's most beloved festivals. Hear the startup stories and how an idea went from what if to what's next.